Hello, trading has closed on the 27th of January 2022. We always start with our disclaimer. This is my plan for tomorrow, Friday, the 28th. Please remember, I can be wrong. Any trades you make should be at your own risk. Look for the pattern with the early low. This is it. Tomorrow also has the early low. Futures were way down, but I said this low had a chance of holding. It was a candidate for a low. And to make that happen, we have to gap up smartly, which is what we did. We said unless we gapped up and promptly overtook this high, we should have negative prices print. We should trade lower. So even though we had this huge rally, we did trade lower at some time. Let's see what MEJT had to say about today's trade. Called this move false, so we drop. This gave an ultimate sell signal, a regular sell signal, which have worked, but also had an optional higher target, and that's already printed. So that has played out. Well, this is a pattern which normally trades near its high. When it's weak instead, it leads to more weakness. And that's pretty weak. Now it's all invalidated if we gap and take this high out tomorrow. And as I'm recording this, futures are up 21, but I think the odds are against it. I have this as wave 3 probably completing. We're in the fourth wave, and regardless of what happens, there should be a fifth wave to come. And the question is, if this is A, is this the end of B, or is B going to be down here? Well, here's strong resistance right at today's high. We have the 200-day moving average. We have a Fibonacci retrace from the high. We have the FOMC announcement price. Have this prior consolidation, all those things held as resistance. And then when we fell, unlike yesterday, which closed over all these prior highs, today's close was under all these prior highs. So all that happened today, as I see it, is we filled what you could call an intraday gap. It just filled the empty space and closed weaker and under a level which held yesterday. So resistance held and support didn't. If we're going to invalidate this, really have to gap and probably even gap over this high and preferably over this one. I think it's kind of a long shot. I think today was the bull's chance, and if they couldn't do it today when they had a head start, it's pretty hard for me to see them do it on a second try. They'll probably have to start from lower prices, but as I said, futures are up as I'm recording this, and until we open, you never know for sure. And if we gap up sharply, the call is killed. But I think that's pretty negative action. I look for lower prices to print, unless we gap up. So tomorrow's pattern has the early low. It could still gap up. Today's normally bullish pattern was weak. Unless we gap and promptly overtake today's high, should see lower prices print tomorrow regardless of how we close. Today's rally stopped at major resistance from Fibonacci retrace, FOMC announcement price, and the 200-day moving average. It did fill the void left by yesterday's late plunge, but it closed under prior highs, which yesterday's low had overcome. Also, we had further deterioration of breadth meaning more and more stocks are having negative charts. It's very weak action. If bills can't vitiate it promptly, we should trade much lower tomorrow. And I'm just going to add, even if by some chance we trade higher tomorrow, I don't see any way we're going to hold this level forever. And at some point, we're going to break lower. So tomorrow's trade has the early low. If we don't gap and take these highs out early, I look for lower prices. It doesn't have to mean we close lower, but if we move down smartly on Friday, it's one of the least likely times to have a turnaround happen. And that's today's call.